traditional documentation practices with modern AI powered workflows, exploring MCP integrations and agentic AI transform documentation systems. And in his session today, he will be sharing hands on insights, architecture, demo, and best practices for prompt engineering inside IDs. So let us welcome Amandeep Singh Talwar. Over to you, Amandeep.
Oh, thank you very much, Priti. Appreciate that. And hello, everyone. I really want to first acknowledge Tech Writer Stripe, Preeti, the host, as well as all of you guys taking time on a Sunday morning. So I would definitely, I mean, I'll try my best to ensure that this time that you're spending here with us goes productive and you carry, a month's amount of knowledge with you. Also, I would also want to let you know that if in case you have any questions, queries that we are not able to take up in this session today, you can always reach out to me over LinkedIn and we can talk about your questions or queries related to the topic. Having said that, let me share my screen and let's get started. By the way, before I proceed further, just wanted to mention if my voice is audible and it's clear.
Yes, it is audible.
Thank you, Preeti. Thanks for confirmation. And in case if anyone has any questions, and I would actually be stopping in between to ask questions. And if you have a question, please raise your hand, and then we'll basically ask you to unmute and then ask your query. And if that query basically needs a little bit more of time, I'll make a note of that query, and then we can discuss more details at the end of the session where I've dedicated some time. Okay, having said that, I hope you guys can actually see my desktop.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I put together a couple of slides just to give a brief introduction before we get into the actual demo and a little bit of technical conversation on this whole prompt business. Now, um, first of all, even before we start anywhere, I just wanted to ask how many of you are afraid of this whole AI thing, the AI, influence that's going on, the change, I would actually say. How many of you are afraid of it? Just raise your hand. Okay, that's interesting to see no one is scared of AI, which is good. Now, what I feel is, well, to basically, give you a perspective, I am. Okay, I wouldn't lie. I am. And there are a couple of reasons for it. One is that it's going so fast. It's just moving so fast that every day I get to see a change. Every day there's something new that's happening in that domain. And it is really, hard to catch up with each and everything. As humans, I mean, we have our own speed of acquiring knowledge and understanding, and thereby I think there's always a delta. So I'm kind of like scared, and I think all of us should be, and there's a valid reason to it. Reason being that change is always difficult, and we are at a time where this change is actually going to define how the future is going to look like. As technical communicators, if you're thinking that, hey, you know what, I could just go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, rewrite this, or develop a couple of style sheets, or just rely on chats or the agents or LLMs, that is just not going to be sufficient. You definitely need to take an edge, and that edge will, one, define your growth possibilities, and two, it will also keep you it will also help you keep up to date to what's happening out there, and then continue to motivate you. Motivation is the important thing here, and fear definitely brings fear, and change, they definitely bring motivation. So having said that, let's get into the topic of mastering AI prompt techniques. Now, yes, why did I actually ask you about the whole fear aspect? that's because when I started working on this prompt technique, I was kind of like, okay, how can I actually, you know, tame the power of AI? How can I use AI for the benefit of me and whatever work I'm doing? So there's a lot of tools. I mean, you must be seeing, you must be seeing those Facebook, reels, and people coming up and then telling you like, hey, there's this new tool to get certain things done. There's this new tool to get certain things done. Well, that's faster, but don't you think that you should also be a part of that, that genre where you also come out and then say, hey, this is a tool that actually does this, rather than just relying on the chat GPTs. And that's exactly what motivated me to, develop, it continues to motivate me to develop these tools, automations and stuff. This tool in specific that we will be going to talk about today is, I call it the universal AI prompt generator. Now, the story is I was going through this Google Cloud Prompt Engineering Guide. I'm not sure how many of you did actually go through this. It's an excellent prompt engineering guide, and I strongly recommend it. Therefore, I have this link here. So you'll get this material. Don't worry about it. You'll get this material, through TWT. We'll share this material with you, so you'll have your hands on it. Now, this guide basically presents a lot of various techniques actually on how to do, prompting, or basically, how to engineer prompts, right? Now, there are 18 different prompts. I'm not sure how many of you really realize that it's not just rewrite or, get me a style guide or something. There are different ways of how you interact with LLMs and the agentic AIs, and it is really important for someone to understand it. Now, not everyone, or I myself cannot actually keep referring to this guide every time. So based on the understanding that I've acquired from this guide, based on the various details that are provided in this guide, I tried to come up with a tool myself, which can basically help me generate those prompts based out of these prompt engineering standards, right? Based out of these various standards. And each one of them has a very specific requirement. So today, we would be going through what those prompts are, what each one of them does. Maybe in a, I'll try to do some live demos, and I'll be using Visual Studio Code. So I would strongly recommend that you install Visual Studio Code. It is free of cost. It doesn't charge you much, and then you can easily integrate your AI agents with Visual Studio Code. And if you haven't done that, I would strongly recommend you to do that after this session, because that ways you will be able to play with your prompts. So I'll be doing that. But let's understand what's happening in the background. So when we talk about prompts, it's about communication. And as technical writers, as technical communicators, I would, the very basic requirement is, you are able to communicate. You're able to communicate with your audience. And here, your audience is actually an AI engine. It's an AI powered tool, or LLM, or agent, what do you call it? So now you should actually start. As a part of your audience analysis, which we all say that we do, or we try to, basically go to our PMs or anyone within our company and try to understand who the audience is, whom we are writing for. Now you should also add AI as one of your audience, and it is getting important. And I'm sure most of you are already going through it, where companies are actually asking you to find innovative ways of how this information that you have been working on can be accessed, or can be shared with AI, can be processed by AI. And things are changing. The way we used to write for humans is not the way we would write for AI. That's definitely not happening. So now we have to also include how to communicate with AI as one of the skills, and that's where the mastering of AI prompting techniques comes into picture. So you need to understand how that prompt works, what happens, what kind of prompt you give, how AI understands it, and how your output comes out, which is better. So our target is always better output, right? And therefore, it actually and AI basically would just do whatever prompt you give. Natural language query, or more curated, grammatically correct, even incorrect, AI is gonna read it out, probably give you some suggestions. But I think the major role here is how do you give your prompt? What would be your prompt like, and how detailed, how organized your prompt is, so that you can actually get your output in one or two hits, and not like constantly asking AI to, hey, you know what, no, improve this paragraph. Hey, you know what, make this as a bulleted list, and so on. So this session, I've actually put down, this breakdown today here is one, we'll be discussing about the problem and solution. And I think that's what we've been doing right now. Two, we'll actually get into the architecture of what this solution is that I've actually worked on. What are those various prompting techniques? And I've said there are 18 plus prompting techniques. And then, I'll also be talking about how I have not just, included the prompting techniques into this application, but I've also started working on personas, which is also important because that's the audience type that we relate to when we were working on a user guide or a documentation, right? So we know that there is there is someone called as a software designer, there's someone called as a technical writer, there's someone called as a manager, there's someone called as a sales guy or marketing guy, and the information that needs to reach out to this individual varies, right? So those are the personas, right? So how did I connect the prompting techniques with the personas? And then how did I also include support for MCP servers? Now that's a different topic for some other day, but I'll just show you what happens there. And after all of this after adding all these development or all these components together, how does that prompting technique works in the Visual Studio Code? So that's exactly what we'll be talking about. So that's part two, and then part three, I'll be getting into the actual features demo. So we'll be doing three demos today. One would be how, creating an API documentation, and trust me, it's a complete endpoint documentation, and I'll be doing it with just one single prompt. So you'll be amazed to see how that works. Then we'll be creating or explaining a complex technical concept. So I'll actually be generating a prompt. I'll show you how I do that, and then, so basically look at all these pointers that I've actually put together, and then finally, I'll also demo how do I create a troubleshooting guide with again different personas and different prompting technique and different prompt itself. Finally, on the part four, I'll be giving you a brief hint of how what are those advanced capabilities. I'll give you a quick demo of it. Now, of course, all of this basically needs understanding of Visual Studio Code. How do you create extensions and so on? I'll be basically just giving a brief of how did I do that. But again, that you know really developing an extension itself is literally a workshop, and I have been putting together a workshop together as well, and that definitely needs time, that need tool at your end as well, so that you can follow my instruction. That's probably going to happen sometime later, so we'll not get into a lot of technical details there. And finally, we would be, I'll start the conversation of, what lessons I have learned, how this has helped, and then, leave it open for Q&A, depending on the time and availability. And if you're not able to answer all the questions, and as I said, you can reach out to me over my LinkedIn handle. Okay, so let's get going here. So while I just gave you a generic overview, let's talk about the universal AI prompt generator, right? So what is this prompt generator all about? As I told you, the idea was to basically ensure that whether I'm a software developer, whether I'm a technical writer, whether I'm a UX UI designer, any of these persona, I should be able to use this application or extension and then be able to get a prompt generated, which will get my job done easier and much better. Um, so how does that work, right? So I'll give you a brief overview and then we'll get into the demo as we've decided in the session agenda. So the step one with this extension here that I've developed is you need to select a prompting technique. Now, since the 18 plus, I did not include all of them in this demo here, but I'll be showing you a few of them. I think I have 10 of them added for this demo. I will not go to all of them, but I'll show you what each one of them does and how these are different from each other, right? So, again, these terms are very generic, they're common. You should be able to do a search yourself and understand what is the difference between chain of thought and few shot learning. So I'll be, taking you through some of these. The step two, once you have actually identified what technique you want and you know what kind of result you're actually looking for, then the expectation from this application, from this extension, is you need to select an persona. And that persona could be whether you are a developer because you're basically trying to generate a code, are you a professor because you're trying to do a research, or are you a business consultant, you're probably trying to do a market research or something. Are you a creative director because you're looking for some suggestions on UI/UX enhancements, or are you a research scientist? You basically want a lot more in-depth research. Of course, there's a technical writer also on that list, which basically is something that we can connect to. Once you've selected the persona, the next thing that you would do is identify the complexity, right? I mean, the complexity within a prompt defines to what level of detail you would want in that information that's generated. When you say beginner, it basically is going to give you definitions. It will start you from that level, right? I mean, the understanding is you don't know anything, and then you want to know everything about it. So the amount of information that's generated is huge because it actually captures everything right from the basics. But when you say intermediate, it basically would skip some of the basic information and then land you onto or generate an information which has an understanding that you at least know your basics, you know what you're actually looking for, but then it starts you from that level. So it skips the basic part. Advanced is more of like, okay, you know what you're looking for, you know the prereqs, you know the installations, you know everything. Now you're basically looking to hit the topic. So it kind of like goes directly to the topic. It does a research only on the topic. It skips the basic and intermediate part in your information. So the amount of information that's generated is more crisp, is more towards the topic. An expert is like, it is exactly what you're looking for, right? I mean, let us say, skip everything. I don't need basics. I don't need anything. I just want you to do this, period. And that's expert. That's like, it gives you pretty much everything that an expert is looking for. So once you've selected the complexity, the next thing is you need to tell what you're looking for, right? I mean, in reality, what is it that you want? So that is basically where context comes into picture. Now, the context is optional because sometimes in this case, it's not optional though. You need to tell what kind of information you're looking for, what is your question like, and sometimes you would I prefer using variables. I'm actually going to show you how I use variables in my prompts so that I can actually share the same prompt with others. And the only thing you would actually have to change is the variable part. Everything else remains the same. So I'm going to show you that as well. And finally, do you have any other custom instructions, right? So in this case, I actually push the variables and I ask someone into my team to say, skip the custom instructions and you add your own variables there and generate the output. So that way, within the team as well, you can actually form a prompt dictionary where you actually generate the prompts with variables, and people just replace the value of variables, and that's pretty much it, and everything else remains the same. So the output continues to come the same way, but the only difference is the topic, right? So if let us say you are looking for an essay on lion, and someone is looking for an essay on a cow, so the only variable there would be the animal. Okay, so the prompt still remains the same. You would definitely need the same kind of an essay, 200 words. It has to be clear, it has to be grammatically clear, crisp for a sixth standard student. All of that remains the same. The only difference is animal. So you would basically include animal as a prompt, create a prompt, and then share it with, let us just hypothetically think that we are in a classroom and you're sharing that with all your students. So your student would basically then go to custom instructions and say animal is equal to lion, or animal is equal to cow, or animal is equal to um, deer or something. And the prompt would then generate output based on the variable that's provided. And all of the outputs would be consistent. So that's how you can create a dictionary, a prompt dictionary, and then share it amongst the team. And everyone can actually use it for their own purpose. So we'll be doing that as well. Quickly, I'll just quickly take you through what happened. Why is this automation important, and what kind of impact did it bring, right? So before, if I've worked on these techniques or this extension, I would have to spend, let us say, like 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes struggling with AI, trying to get the actual information that I wanted, right? So my prompts were simple, my prompts were not very clear, so AI would struggle, or AI would hallucinate. That, we all know that it's a huge database of information, and unless you contain it, unless you tell, exactly what you're looking for, it's gonna go wander across and then get you information that you might or you might not. Most of the cases you might not need. Sometimes the information is not accurate. So basically, I had to save that amount of time, the research that I was doing on. I also wanted a lot, I mean, better output, much to what I was looking for in fraction of seconds. So this extension helped me bring down time from 5, 10, 15 minutes. And this is, sometimes I struggled for 20 minutes as well, with, a lot of questioning and answering and fine tuning it to, less than 60 seconds or 60 seconds flat, right? I mean, now I just generate the output and everything else is taken care of because my prompts are crystal clear, they are targeted, and they basically contain the agent. So, it cannot just hallucinate. There are clear instructions given in the prompt. So that's what this extension does, and this is the architecture. Just in case if you're looking for what this extension would look like, this is a Visual Studio Code extension. Basically, has a couple of folders and files in it. The most important part here is the source folder, which is what is doing the actual job. The extension.ts is like the file that you would need for Visual Studio Code to understand that this is a valid extension. So all your extension related stuff goes here. Then you have the quick pick provider, which basically would then give you those options of selecting the prompting style, selecting the persona, and all that stuff. The prompt generator tree provider is what comes up. So I'll actually, explain each one of them, and I put a quick demo right on the screen for you all. Media and package and README, these are these are the required files. This is what you would need for any extension to have. A package.json would then help you package this source and compile and build it into an extension, which is usually a VSIX file that is consumed by your Visual Studio Code cursor, Claude sometimes, and then it actually gives you an interface to work with. It, so you don't actually have to remember where that file is, where the browser is, and so on. So I personally prefer having my tools, in the IDE and Visual Studio Code, so that I can access them whenever I want without wondering where the tools are, how to start it, how to launch it, and so on. And that's why I continue to create extensions. Now, um, I know you might all be asking questions like, we are technical writers. Do we really need this depth of understanding? Well, the answer is not really, but you know what? It is no harm, and I've learned it the hard way. There's no harm in knowing things. Uh, Again, when we are actually getting into sessions like this or any other technical session, it is not mandatory that you basically, deviate your path and try to explore things which you're probably not very comfortable with. So the idea here with this session or any other session is to give you an awareness that even within technical communication domain, even within this domain, there are people who basically are now putting in effort to do a lot of vibe coding. There are tools that can actually help you get the vibe coding done. So if you do not understand extension also, you can rely on these tools to get, just say, hey, you know what, I want to generate an extension that would basically, pick up all these tools, or just give me an extension, a Visual Studio Code extension, and will do it. So it is not a big thing today to basically develop an automation, and pretty much everybody is doing it. So why not us? right? Now we are communicators, so we should be able to communicate properly with the tools. We should be able to do a lot better vibe coding than anyone else because we know how to communicate, and that's exactly the basic skill we carry. So developers struggle because they have I mean, I'm not saying that not all developers do it. If you're a developer, please excuse me. I know that you guys do a fabulous good job. You've learned, you put in a lot of, a lot of hours, a lot of time and effort into learning things, but things are changing, right? Even people who do not probably have not learned Python or have not learned how to create extensions are able to create extensions and get things done. So there has to be a point. So for technical communicators, that's the edge. For developers, maybe something else. So everyone needs to now find an edge in their career and start growing towards it. And this, I think, I would, I personally feel is the edge that technical communicators should start looking into. Why coding is, gaining a lot of traction. I kind of like try to spend some time over weekends and doing some or other vibe coding. That's for some other day. So I would say, try to get that edge. If the question is, should I be a developer? Well, not really. There are no code tools as well. But then, yes, try to, explore. Okay, try to enhance your communication. Try to talk to AI as much as you can, because only then you will understand what information works for AI, what doesn't, and then try to bring that back into your documentation. Trust me, your documentations would be much more appreciated by AI. They would consume, and AI would be able to give responses based on the documentation that you push in to the agent much faster than a document that is written probably for humans or probably in a completely unstructured way. So think about that. With that, let's move on to the actual demo. But before I go there, let me ask if anyone has any question, and if it does, Preeti, can you actually help me, pick the individual and unmute him or her, if that's possible? Anyone who's raised his hand.
As of now, we don't have anyone raising their hands.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh,
if someone has any question, please type in the chat box or please raise your hand. We'll take up the question.
okay, I see Nandini has raised a hand. Yes, Nandini.
Hi, Aman. I think this is a very, very relevant and very timely. And the way you have put it together, I really am liking it because I can connect with everything we are doing in my organization. Um, so my question was that when you say AI ready content, we are talking about making the content meta tagging the content, right? Because that's how your AI tool will be able to extract the information and dish it out depending on the user profile.
Okay, that's again, thank you. That's a great point. Now, what AI does, I mean, let me give you a very quick picture, is AI actually indexes information that you push to it, right? I mean, it's indexing, right? Now, all these tools, they basically index your data. Now, when they're doing that, when you have meta tags, it actually helps AI to push so let us say you have 10 topics with similar meta tags, and you've actually arranged your information there. This happens in structured documentation. So AI would be able to actually, when it's parsing these 10 topics, it would be able to index all meta tag, one meta tag related information together, the other one together, and it actually creates an index. And this file is called the llms.txt. It actually has a very clear format. You can actually just search for llms.txt file, and you'll understand what kind of file is created, because every agent needs, this kind of a data. Now, if you are able to generate all these 10 topics and generate an LLMS or TXT, AI would literally love it. It will just consume LLMS or TXT and it will give you right results. But if you are just adding meta tags and you're expecting AI to do that, then it might not be able to do a relative data. So when you're doing this meta tagging and pushing it to AI, try to see how your llms.txt appears. It's a text file, so you should be able to read it and see if it is actually able to put relevant data together. You will then come to know how AI actually reads your data. And the second thing is, when you already have prepared your AI with your data, let us say you've already created, you've already been, educating AI agent within, a closed ecosystem with your data. How many questions you actually have to ask to get the actual output? Right, that also matters, because if you get your output right on the first question, that means your metadata is working, meta tagging is working, your whatever strategy you're using is working. But if you have to ask more than one question, two, three, and then you still feel like the information is still not coming out well, then of course, go back to your indexing, and then you'll see that your index file is like all, it's all going everywhere, and agent is actually finding it really hard to find the actual information. So that's what I meant when I say we'll actually have to do the data, and things are coming up, right? I mean, people are now pushing out markdown files because AI can actually read markdown files pretty well. HTML files have a lot of tagging in them, and AI usually, has to clean up all that tagging, and indexing doesn't work really well. So there are certain ways of, training AI, what kind of data goes into AI and how it actually behaves or functions. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk when I said what kind of information you want to write and how that information is processed by AI. I mean, that can be a session all in itself, but in short, try to generate an llms.txt file and see how your data is coming out.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Aman. Because we are doing that, we are creating the vector store with the
Yeah,
LLM, and that vector store, the response is pretty good. In fact, the images, we have a lot of legacy content, and hence we are
right.
taking a special effort to revisit the legacy content along with the images, because images are not all of them always are with metadata. So we are doing
Correct.
that effort, taking that effort. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great,
totally. And
thank
with
you.
images, one quick thing is like, make sure that your alt image text is always added. Whichever documentation source you're using, make sure that you have an alt image, because that works out really well for AI agents.
Oh, that's
Okay.
a good
Aman, you
input.
want to take
Thank you.
one more?
Yeah, just
Oh,
one more, and then we'll
yeah.
quickly go it into a demo. Yeah.
Nishi has raised hand. Nishi.
Thank you. Yes, Rishi.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Saman. It was a wonderful session, and I'm getting a chance to know more things about AI. I have one quick questions
Mhm.
regarding how AI can help in creating data for OCR devices like optical character recognition. Like how we can give the prompts for OCR devices using AI. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good question. The answer is gonna be big, but I'll see if I can actually cover that part. Maybe within this prompt, maybe we'll actually give that prompt and then see what AI actually has to say. But it's definitely more than what we can actually cover in this session, Nishi.
Okay,
So
great. Thank
okay,
you.
sure, thank you. Okay, so let's quickly move on to the demo part here. And what I'm actually going to do is pull my Visual Studio Code. This is my Visual Studio Code. Now, what I've done for this demo is I've actually created a demo folder here, so we can actually see the output. And all your extensions appear here. And this is the extension that I've actually created. I call the AI prompt generator. Now, as you can see here, the extension is pretty easy for someone to access. Now, when you actually have it in Visual Studio Code, you can, use the command palette as well to, to basically use the commands, because these are the commands that are basically working in the background. But I am not a command line guy. So I usually prefer having something which I can access, like a menu, like a GUI, and this is the GUI. So this is the tree view that I was actually talking about. So in the source, I actually have a tree view, .ts file, which basically generates this tree view here. Now let's look into the generate AI prompt real quick. So when I click on generate AI prompt, I get this the prompt dialog. So the very first thing I have to do is uh, you know uh, juice technique, as I've actually mentioned. So what I'm going to do in the interest of time here is I will go ahead and just give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll select the chain of thoughts. Uh, Okay. So I'll select the chain of thought. Now, what this chain of thought does, and all of this is actually explained quite nicely when I generate the output. So let's select chain of thought first. It's a step-by-step reasoning approach. So it always gives you, oh, do this, then do this, and do this. So your output is always like a step-by-step approach. Now, that's different from step-by-step prompting technique, which is basically like it actually generates instructions. Task topic, if people can actually relate to. I love the Socratic method because it actually asks questions. So you now, whenever you give a prompt to AI, and let us say AI needs more information. I would want AI to ask me those questions, what information you want. And Socratic method actually does that. So when you select Socratic method and you give a prompt, AI would then keep asking you questions, take more and more information so that your output that comes out is crystal clear. It's exactly to what you're looking for. So let's look at chain of thought first. And here's the persona, right? So I have a lot of people. This is configurable though, but at this point, let's go to the technical writer because it's what we are. And here I'll basically select, let us say I'll select the expert for now. Now, so this is where you'd basically provide your prompt. And for this prompt, I'm actually going to be selecting the text here. And I'll show this text in a minute. So it actually would generate the uh, thing. So as you can see here, I've just added a prompt. The prompt is you're a technical writer reviewing the following content. And I haven't provided the content. I just gave a variable called draft text. And then I would want it to first identify any clarity or structure issues and then rewrite the content to improve the logical flow, readability, and technical accuracy. I'm also giving my prompt target audience and tone, again in variables. So this is basically something from my prompt dictionary. So I can actually create such a prompt, which is working for me, keep it in my dictionary, and then pull that out. So once I have my prompt here, I go to my final instructions where I'm basically trying to give it some information. And, so I'll just pull some information from somewhere. Just give me 1 second. Let us see, I go to Google Docs, let us say Google Help Center, and then I'll just pull up some data from Google Chrome Help. Let's say, okay, where is it? Import Chrome bookmarks and settings. Okay. So my data here is this. So let us see if I can actually paste it here. So this is some data here. And then I would basically want the audience type and the tone. So my target audience and tone is already selected. If you want, I can actually go ahead and give these two details as well. I know this prompting here is a bit, I need to actually extend it further so that um, it shows everything in, in, in a neat format. I'm still working on this one though. Okay. And here I'm actually going to give the audience type, and I don't put this in the bracket. I would actually say, since this is Google Chrome, that I would say um, Chrome user. Actually, I would say new Chrome user. And the tone is, let us say, I would say professional. Okay. Now let's hit enter. And what it'll do here is it's actually already started working on it. Okay. I'll let it work, but look at the prompt now. So it said, hey, the primary role is technical writer. This is exactly the prompt that I'm giving AI. Now look at it. It's huge. I understand that, but I didn't write it. I wanted AI to write it. I wanted this extension to write it. So I'm basically telling, because I've selected technical writer, it has already identified that this technical writer and communication specialist, what are his his expertise areas, what kind of communication style, he or she does, and what's the perspective. Now, under reasoning methodology, I've selected chain of thought reasoning. So I'm also telling what is it and what kind of structure I would need. What are the response parameters? So all of this is, it's already like a part of the extension because this is coming in from my learning of prompt engineering. So I've actually added all these details into my extension so that my extension understands. So just by selection of it, it basically understands what I need. What are the special instructions? Now here, I can actually go ahead and give pointers to my style guide. I can give pointers to MSTP. I can give pointers to any of this, the style guide if in case I adhere to those without actually, telling everything. And then, all of that is already pre-configured in here. So look at the prompt and in Visual Studio Code, when I, run this extension, it already, basically, see this. This is the prompt that is passed. And now this is the chain of thought analysis. So what does the chain of thought analysis does? It actually does a problem analysis. And the current draft is it is passive voice. It has vague positioning because I actually just copied some portion of the help material, not everything. And it says, well, it is missing actual import process and steps, which is true because I just copied the initial part of the help material and not everything. And it is like, so it basically did the problem analysis. That's what chain of thought does. Then it actually gives you a reasoning as to like what is the reasoning, what is it that what is AI actually trying to understand, what it wants you to think through. And these are the pointers. And this is the evidence evaluation. So what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? And once it is done, it has now provided a revised content to me. So look at this content here. I just gave, if you actually see the data that I gave is this. That's it. I just gave it this data. And from there, because of course, it actually has access to the Chrome help as well. But then the idea here is to improve it. Now look at the content here. Right? It is much more improved. It has proper notes. It has how to import section. And it also is telling you where the imported bookmarks would appear. Now, it also gives you, as a part of a prompt technique, it'll tell you what was done, what was changed, and what exactly were the improvements that were made. So this is just one prompt. This is just the let's say this is just the the I'm sorry, the chain of thought prompt. Now you can actually use the same extension to basically get through your step-by-step data or generate a data concept topic or generate a data task topic on so and so. So let's just quickly do this. Go to generate prompt again. This time I want step by step. I want technical writer. I would say expert. And again, I basically just, you know, yeah, reviewing the draft. Yes. So I would still want this one. And then I would actually say, generate a data task topic and hit enter. Okay, so what is it doing? Let's see. Now you'd see that it actually has an understanding of what a data task topic is. And it is now creating a data task topic based on how to import bookmarks and settings to Chrome. So this one is basically creating step by step because I actually wanted it to create it in that format. Now look at it. So imagine the amount of time I'm actually saving here. Now I have my draft. I wouldn't say that this is the final output. This is definitely a draft, but I at least have a decent draft to start looking into. Now, how many a times did we encounter a developer spec or a PRD data or a simple Jira ticket, which actually has a lot of technical data in it, and you really do not understand it, but you need, I mean, sometimes you're in a block. I'm actually blocked sometimes, and it's like, what are they actually talking about here? I need more details. But I really don't want to basically, take developers' time. I don't want to reach out to them upfront asking them what it is. Many times I prefer that I do my homework, and I have access to the resources, I have access to the code, uh, I have access to the Jira ticket. So either I can actually spend, a couple of hours doing that research, or either I can actually leverage this AI as a utility, as a help, as a buddy sitting right next to me, and then say, hey, I've just got this information, and can you actually, do a step by step, analysis, or can you actually do, you know, let's say, can you actually do research, or can you actually get into a research mode and then help me understand what is being talked about here, what are the details. And research mode is going to give you a comprehensive analysis of everything that you give. So when you are within your organization, I would say ecosystem, you have tools at your privilege. I know that some of you have Copilot, some of you have some other tools. I would say please leverage it. But many a times we do not know how to put that information there. So this AI prompt generator for me basically helps me generate this prompt, and I can just right away go ahead, copy that prompt, and paste it in either my Copilot, my Cursor, or whichever utility my organization is providing me, and then ask that AI agent to help me understand what is going on there. And that ways at least I'll have my first draft available, which, trust me, definitely helps, right? So these is how, this is the tool that I've worked on. This is how, the idea is to save time, because if I am able to save time, I'm able to actually do more things, or maybe pay attention somewhere else where my attention is needed, and let this redundant task go on, right? So this is how my team works, and we actually work in a group. We kind of like collaborate, talk through it, we share these applications, and then start exploring much further. Now the extension also basically gives you all the recent prompts that you've used, so you can always go back to one of the prompts that you actually put in the past. Like for example, this one here is about creating an API, documentation, right? So if I just copy this prompt here real quick, open a new agent and paste this prompt and go for it, look at it. So this was basically a prompt where I was telling, hey, I have this API, again using variables, and I want you to basically generate an endpoint description or a complete reference. And it will just go ahead and do that for you because it understands certain things by default. You don't actually have to tell it what an API is, what a post is, what is an open API spec is, and all that stuff. Those are all available out there. What you just need to tell is a clear prompt. So what you want to do, what those boundaries are. Now here, these things are my boundaries. I really don't want AI to go or hallucinate or start wandering. I want it to, I want to contain it, and that's exactly where all of these details come into picture, right? And you can actually set those boundaries as well, depending on your style guide. If it's online, if it's offline, try to convert it into a markdown file or some format where AI can actually read it. And there you go. Right. So I think this actually, yeah, there you go. See, it has just created the API documentation.md. Let me just click escape here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See this. So I'll just hide this one. And there you go. So this is creating a new user, request headers, request body, field specifications, response, and how the response fields are, what the error responses are, what is 401 unauthorized, and all that stuff, right? This, I don't say that this is worth publishing, maybe not. You definitely need to go through it, but it at least gives you a very good starting point, and it saves a lot of your time and effort. Okay, so having said that, so yeah, let me quickly move back to the browser and see how we're doing with the agenda. So yes, and I was talking about, I know we are running out of time here, but let's just quickly take a minute. I hope it's okay, people here, because we started late. Just give me a couple more minutes, and I'll just quickly show you the areas where the advanced usage is happening here. So the advanced usage that I was talking about is this. This is a generative UI. A generative UI is basically an HTML page that actually gets generated within this IDE. This IDE doesn't support HTML. So this is auto-generated. Second is when I'm actually giving prompts, if I already have certain MCPs added to my application or to my IDE, then I should be able to leverage those MCPs. For example, I have a Jira MCP server. So when I say, hey, I want more details on Jira, ticket, blah, 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 with my prompt, what this extension would do is it will also invoke that Jira MCP server. It will ask Jira MCP server to go and get details of that Jira ticket, pull the tickets back with the prompt. It starts processing all that information, and then it generates a document for me with the details borrowed in from the Jira ticket. And that could be a Confluence MCP server. It could be GitHub MCP server. So there are a lot of MCP servers. I just did a SCC session on MCP servers, and I think there's a lot more that we can actually talk about, but that's for some other day. So those are the advanced features that this extension has. It actually can talk to MCP servers as well. Um, and as I mentioned, so these are some of the tech. I mean, this I'll share this guide with you. I'm actually trying to talk through about. Now, finally, let's talk about the business impact and ROI, right? So because of this, because of proper prompting, definitely saved more than 50% of time, in development of various documentation. We've also gained some real good performance gains from AI because we've been using the same prompt consistently. So AI knew that this is the kind of data we're looking for, and we started actually educating or training it in a way. The kind of data that was coming out continued to basically become more and more accurate because we've been trying to give it more and more. One, consistent prompt. Two is like we were literally containing it with variables. And because the prompts were clear, they were like toned down, we were not actually giving 10 different questions or 10 different prompts. It was one prompt. It also reduced the amount of effort that was basically being cost. I mean, you understand that the input and output tokens, they both are charged, and it kind of like is a cost. So when you save time, when you save effort, and when you make sure that your prompt is working, you also save a lot of cost on your input and output tokens because now you're not exploring. You know this is the prompt, this is what you need to use, this is the output it will give you, period. There's some research going on as to like how these prompts actually help and what kind of, so this is more of a financial and ROI data. I'm sure your organization, when you start working on some things, you will be able to put in, such an ROI and go ahead and, speak to your management and see, hey, this is what my team is doing now. This is what I'm doing. And this is how I'm actually impacting the business because I'm saving my time. Thereby, I'm now available for one more project. That basically means that you now got, you got more of my time, and I'm able to actually give you a lot more technically accurate data also by leveraging AI, which all the companies want us to do now. So it's a win-win situation in a way. Um, Having said that, and say, quickly on the takeaways, I strongly feel that the prompting, an effective way of prompting is a great skill to have, especially with technical communicators, because we know communication. That's the basic. And if we are able to, grasp prompting, it's a win-win situation. It's definitely no one can actually, replace you or think about that. I also feel that when you actually try to bring in such automation, think through it, bring in a structure in your workflow, they really work well. They become your best buddies, your best tools, and they also also help you to measure, iterate, and standardize things, because now you will have data as to like what is working and what's not working for you, and then keep moving on. Right. So with that, thank you very much. And I know my apologies for taking a couple more minutes than than the suggested time. So thank you very much. And I'm not sure if we can actually take questions, but I'll leave it to Puneet and team to decide if we can take questions now.
Thank you very much, Aman. Uh, so I think Preeti, we can take some question
Yeah, we have
if we
one
have.
question.
I don't see many in chat.
Yeah, we have one question from Suyog, and one more question from like I think from Vijay Lakshmi, and one more
Preeti,
question
your
from.
voice, can it get louder?
Okay,
We
I'm
have,
seeing.
yeah,
Yes, Preeti,
three
go ahead.
questions. We have three questions. One question from Suyog. He's saying, I'm curious to find out if you see adding the capability in this extension to help create other kinds of media such as videos or graphics.
Well, you can, and there's definitely a possibility, but you'll also have to remember that videos and graphics consume a lot of tokens. So it all depends on, again, it also depends on the AI agent you're working on. Some AI agents don't natively, support videos or graphics. So if your organization is not giving you permissions, even if you have those options in the extension, they will just not work. It will continue to give you textual data and then say, hey, use some XYZ tool to generate your video, but I can write you a short script or something like that. So the possibility is endless. And yeah, but then again, it also depends on AI as well as the ecosystem you're working on.
Thank you, Aman. There's one more question from Vijay Lakshmi. She's asking, could you give some examples on how you have restructured or updated existing content in your organization for better responses?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question for sure. But I definitely cannot share anything related to organization wide. I can, however, tell you that we've been constantly looking and monitoring at the data that, the information that we've been sharing with customers. And I believe I already mentioned about LLMS.txt. It is an open standard. I would strongly recommend you guys to go in, do some research on what that file looks like, and there are some instructions on how to generate that file as well. So I would say generate that file, read the LLMs.txt. If you can make sense out of it, AI will be able to read your data. If it doesn't make any sense, that basically means that your data needs to be improved further.
Thank you, Aman. One more question from Mansi. She's asking, I'm curious to know if any prerequisites are needed to generate this extension.
This is this is an I mean, this is a Visual Studio Code extension, so you would definitely need some understanding of how to create extension. You need to have Node.js installed on your PC, and some bit of understanding. I started with white coding, so white coding should be able to help you put an extension or even tell you what you're missing. I would say start there, and then try and tell vibe coding what you want to do and see what kind of extension comes out. Install it in Visual Studio Code and see if it is working. Start playing. Many a times you don't need to know the in-depth of it, but if you're really curious, you can definitely look into the code and see what is happening and start editing the code based on your requirements. But that's exactly what I would do.
Thank you, Aman. One more question. Since Shweta is asking, since the work is getting done faster, will it impact our jobs?
It won't. Let me put it this way. I'm a technical communicator myself. I have a team. So the only impact that I see on our jobs is getting things faster. That basically means that that your timelines are getting shorter. So, management also understands that now you have this tool, we have given you this tool. Why is it taking a week for you to get the document out? Why can't we actually get it out in 2 days or 3 days? So those kind of negotiations are happening. And if you are, if you basically are looking at those negotiations, if you're actually leveraging AI to the best of it, then I would tell you that you will be, you would always be like ahead in the curve. And that's exactly where every one of us should actually be, right? So think of this as Google. When Google came in, everyone was like, our dictionary is going to be obsolete. Well, yes, in a way, but we started doing a lot of search on Google. When Gmail came into picture, we said, "Oh, what is going to happen with those emails and all that stuff?" But it actually did it in a fancy way, and now we are all on Gmail. So it's all evolution. We cannot stop the evolution, but we're going to always be a part of it. So the only impact on the job is your timelines are getting shorter. So just you just have to be careful about that.
Thank you, Aman. One last question from VG. How are these prompts created in VS Code extensions different from AI agents available in GPTs?
Great question. So VS Code. So when you actually generate a prompt in, by AI agents, available in GPTs, the prompts are very vague. They only rely on what kind of information you give. For example, if you just go ahead and say, "I need, a step-by-step prompt," use step-by-step prompting technique to get this done, it will just simply take that prompting technique and it will just get things done for you. But that container I was actually talking about, where you don't want AI to expand its horizon, where you don't want AI to hallucinate or wander and then get you data that you just don't need, is also important. So this extension basically brings in that container. The idea here is that if you have your own corporate style guide, you have your own corporate resources, and you want AI to basically rely on those like terminologies, trademark, adherence, acronyms usage and all that stuff, you would basically want this extension to go and check that data. Your GPT agents would not be able to do that unless you specifically provide, and you will have to do that every time. So that ways the extension kind of like brings in that thing. Second thing that this extension does differently is it actually interacts. I mean, all of that is happening within the IDE. One, two is like it interacts with MCP server when and whenever it is needed. For you to basically use AI agent, you will actually have to exclusively tell it to launch an MCP server or something of that sort. This is not required when your extensions are being used. So there are definitely advantages of having extension, but if you're able to create prompts with AI agents and they work fabulously great for you, nothing like it. Just that keep saving those prompts because you don't want people to be creating the same prompts again and again and again.
Thank you, Aman. One more question from Akash. Could something similar be created as an agent in Microsoft Copilot?
The answer is yes. I have actually done that in past, and yes, you can actually create an agent in Microsoft Copilot. Remember, Microsoft Copilot is a very easy go and play kind of an approach. You have to be a bit more. I mean, it doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to basically go and explore things, but you can definitely create prompts in Microsoft Copilot agent and give ideas. For example, the very quick example, right? So if you actually have this prompt here, you can actually create a prompt called Expert AI Assistant for chain of thought, and then put this prompt there with variables. And then Copilot is clever enough to actually ask questions as what is that technical writer, what is the draft content you're talking about, because it actually can read those information in cursor brackets, curly brackets, and it will do a good job of it. So I did that, but I wanted it to basically be independent of all these copilots and all the other stuff, and want to leverage the AI agentic engines, and that's why I have the extension. But the answer is yes, you can.
Thank you, Aman. So we are done with the questions. So anyone has any other questions, please connect with Amandeep on LinkedIn or on the topic-based WhatsApp groups. He's available and he will be happy to answer all your questions over there. And thank you, Amandeep, for an insightful and engaging session. And we truly appreciate you sharing your deep expertise, practical demonstrations, and valuable best practices on building a universal prompt generator for VS Code. And your insights into AI powered workflows, MCP integration, and prompt engineering within IDs have been incredibly enriching for our audience. And I think it will definitely help all our technical writers going forward. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine. And thank you, TWT, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you all for your time. I know it's Sunday. I just hope that you've carried something important. And as Preeti mentioned, please reach out to me in case if you have more questions. Thank you very much.
The next session will be on a report with data on